This is the What I Need podcast, a shared journey exploring topics of society, spirituality, and even ways of being. Here, we speak freely and fully, from the heart and the conscious mind, in hopes to find what we need. Thank you, for your time is valuable and you could have been anywhere else in the universe. All of you are welcomed and appreciated here.
This is why I had to do this episode today. I was being patronized by either thought forums, because we call them thought forums. Thought forums are these really kind of creepy things that your mind can create. It's basically just like thoughts that you have that they grow arms and legs in a way, and they start existing very deeply because you think about it, or you're obsessed about it, or you feel like you're trapped there. And your mind is super powerful. Okay, let me see here. So today, on today's episode, I was talking about I'm still getting used to doing these podcasts, by the way. I just want to say that in this very nonchalant manner. I'm kind of nervous when I'm recording because I want to get it right. I don't want to do a lot of editing, and I have to be comfortable with however I sound, and whatever comes out, whatever happens during the recording, like Luke sitting right here wanting attention. What's up? And then Cora coming over also wanting attention. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm doing a podcast. Yeah. Spiritual warfare, though. Okay, firstly, let me give an introduction to this. People hear that and they get, oh my God, you can't say that. I hate when people say that you can't say something, first of all. Not only is it free will given by God, not only is it constitutional right, shut up. I can say whatever I want, and so can you. So let's start there. There's nothing that cannot be said or discussed, or opinions that can't be discussed, or ideas that can't be discussed, or beliefs that can't be discussed. If you can't have a conversation because you're that scared, you don't need to leave your house, okay? If you think your ideas are going to change because you had one conversation with somebody, either they needed to, or you have a very weak faith, okay? And it was going to change anyway. So, yeah, don't leave your house if you're that scared. Now let's talk about spiritual warfare. You're crunching on this paper. Hold on a second. No, you're not finna do this. Lay down, and get comfy and stop moving around and stuff. Anywho, lay down, Cora. Lay down. You have to. This is studio session vibes. And there's no choice. You have to lay down. Both of you. Thank you. Okay, sorry for that. I'm going to definitely delete that shit out of this podcast because that is completely unnecessary on all parts. So, it almost looks like somebody's at my door, but whatever. It may be spiritual warfare at the door, and that's fine because I'm here to jump in. Actually, my preacher says this is the age of agency. My preacher is Reverend Michael Beckwith, and I really love that statement because age of agency means you're taking agency over your life, your existence, even your spiritual body. You have to. It's taking it to a next level. It's making sure that it happens. It's making sure that, are you picking sides of, what side are you picking? Because it's going on. It's going on. I want to back up a little bit, though. Spiritual warfare. What is the definition of spiritual warfare? Spiritual warfare is an eternal battle between simply light and dark. So it talks about it in all of the holy books, talks about it in many other different, stories. I don't think it's something that is very seen as esoteric or spiritual or biblical or even scary. I would say go ahead and get used to it because it's already been going on before you got here. It's going to be going on after you leave here, after you leave your physical body. So it's nothing new. You have to eliminate the fear of knowing it, talking about it, understanding it, because it's going on all around you. Yeah, you have to get used to knowing more if you plan on knowing more. You should also kind of know what side you're going to be on. I might go in my room because there's a lot of... Okay, I'm back. I came into my room because... I came into my room because there's a little interference in the living room. Things started to get a little disorderly, which I don't think is a coincidence, actually. But again, also, I'm not going to let it disturb me or kind of throw me off. And you have to kind of look at things neutrally, maybe say something funny to the situation, make yourself laugh, and just keep it moving, because it could be or it might not be, or maybe even a mixture of both. So I have a very interesting curriculum of things that were coming through moments before I decided to do the episode today. I may be a little bit all over the place with it, but I may not. I'm trying to be more organized with this. We'll see how much of this I chop up and edit out. So, I'm really liking the way it sounds, actually, naturally. This is all happening, again, live. So where was I? Defining spiritual warfare. So, yes, I know it's... the first couple of times I kind of realized I'm not becoming aware of spiritual warfare, I would say, is in 2017. And I've always heard this term. I grew up Baptist, and you hear about that. If you grew up Baptist, you hear about spiritual warfare because your preacher talks about it. People get the Holy Ghost in church. They become consumed by it, and it like kind of flows through them in dance, or they speak in tongues. Their preacher seems to be like flowing with how he's speaking as well, like letting, almost kind of like freestyling, let it take over and delivering like a message that's relevant to scripture. Like that's how I grew up in Baptist church. So spiritual warfare is, and then if you look up the definition of what a Baptist church is, it says it's a place where the Holy Spirit is more welcome and involved in church. Spirit. And I believe like those people are basically more warriors, prayer warriors they're called, or spiritual warriors, light warriors. And they can also relate to other religions. I don't know for sure because I haven't practiced any other religions. But I don't exclude or limit where God can go, which I think is another thing people need to be wary of. Like, it's a very controversial conversation, but the Spirit of God is eternal. If we're recognizing that, that means before pen and paper and before books. It's not for you to necessarily have all those answers to how that is, but it is true. So we don't need to separate each other up and have holy war over Muslim, Christian, and Catholic, and that was all done already. I don't know what it was solving because they all are still here today. So anywho, spiritual warfare is that basically, and there's different ways to approach it, and there's different ways that it manifests in our lives or tries to approach us, I assume, or not assume, I do know, because I have witnessed many different manifestations of spiritual warfare in my life. So let's start here. Spiritual warfare part 2, the feed. I wanted to call it the feed because it also has a meaning of our interpretation of social media and technology and things. I think we've actually entered. I need to stop saying I think, because a lot of these things are not just a think; they're a know at this point. We've entered into a new era of technology. Obviously, with technology coming through, internet coming through in the early 2000s and really establishing itself to another level or dimension of existence. It's kind of a big deal. And I think spirituality doesn't cease to exist over the internet, believe it or not. I don't think it ceases to exist there. It carries on through the feed. So even what we are scrolling through online, even the status quos and the consciousness that exists online is a part of what's stemming from the atmosphere of spiritual warfare. And maybe that spiritual warfare, once we understand it more, it could be like spiritual lifestyle. But right now, I think there's still like very much a battle of, I'm still saying I think, there's very much a battle of light and dark. And it's not balanced just yet. It's not stable just yet, because there's still so many different understandings here. Different human understandings, obviously different religiosities ruling people, different political statuses that will take people away from compassion, take people away from understanding of one another, take people away from taking care of the earth. And this is not only a, reflection of the Most High, those attributes, compassion, stewardship, caring for one another, just basically unconditional love. These are not just Christian values. They are actually reflected in many different religions and ideologies. And people rarely look for ways to relate these things. They're mostly looking for ways to separate themselves from each other and be the best. And I don't know if there's a way to be like spiritually the best. Spiritual best, like it's a brand. This is my brand of spirituality. Like spirituality is supposed to be intrinsic to the individual. So I don't think there's ever any, I can't say I meditate better than somebody. I guess you could if you get more focused, but it's not the act of meditation and the sharing of that and the knowing about that is not about beating somebody at it. It's not a fast and furious race to the top of spirituality. Everybody can have some, and it's okay, So I think that's how all religions should kind of begin to hopefully view each other, or even if you don't want to view them, I guess, to coexist, and say, that's good for that person. They're uplifting themselves into a higher vibration, a higher state of being that hopefully is reflecting more compassion, more love, more caring for the world, more caring for each other, themselves. Even if it is Allah, Buddha, Britney Spears, Sheba, Jesus, yes, God. Because there's different There's different. Now, somebody's probably either like, what the fuck, I'm mad, or they're either laughing their ass off right now. And you can have either or. But what the truth is they're all still there after you've been mad or you've laughed about them. They're still there. So we need to get used to it, and then also get used to seeing that up is the same way. No matter where on the planet you are, up is up and down will be down. And that's the way spirituality, as I see it, kind of works. Yeah. I mean, there's only a couple things that are religions, quote unquote, that are like, I guess, darker natured, and I don't really know much about those, but I don't know, it's not, everything is not for us to know either. Every single thing is not for us to know. So if you got something good that works for you, I don't have a bad idea about you because you're different from me. I think people really need to focus into that. And that is one aspect of spiritual warfare within just the division between the different types. But then you have the light and dark sides. So as I was mentioning in my Baptist upbringing, seeing how the preachers do, seeing how the audience, or the audience, is that what they're called? The churchgoers, the members, how they become touched by the word as it's really, as the energy. And it's the most amazing thing to see. I think anybody that hasn't been to a Baptist church for real and really been in that atmosphere, I don't even know if it gets that real these nowadays. Because I was really going to like my great grandma's church, Uncle John Henry Church in Michigan there. And that's not the name of the church, but that was his name. And what was it called? I can't remember the name of the church right now, but it's my grandma's brother's church, I believe. And it was just really authentic people from the South, like bringing that Southern Baptist vibe up to Michigan here, holding space there, keeping it like really within the energy. So I don't know. It's like I'm doing it basically now with my podcast. I'll say that's how I feel anyway, because it's channeling, like free flowing and channeling something to come through you to speak. Unbind it from, I guess, you're speaking from your spirit, basically. You're speaking straight from spirit, and it's delivering a message. And sometimes it's beyond what people, I don't know. People, you end up saying some profound things. You end up touching people in a profound way. And in those Baptist churches, they're preaching. They say that it's just like driving. The music is driving. Dun, 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 dun. The music is driving up. The preacher's driving it up. And then he comes and touches somebody on their forehead, and then the feeling goes to their whole body. There's energy transfer. And that person just feels it out, lets it run through them. Maybe it's like literally vibrating and shaking out negative, dark energy, bad experiences, trauma, delivering exactly what they needed that day. I've never experienced the Holy Ghost in that way. I think as an artist and musician, I do experience it in music when, certain songs I've written. Straight up, I'm talking about, that's what I'm talking about in some of the songs. So we'll see that on drama and on Wings. We'll see that on music. I'm talking about music and how it's a gift from God, and it's like it's supposed to be a messenger and heal the world. And if you know, you know. If you allow yourself to know, you know. And I think these things are allowed to be becoming more clear in this time, or at least for me, they've been allowed to come more clear, and I wanted to share that with this podcast. So again, tangent, but our first topic is, what are we feeding into? What are you feeding into? Let me be specific. So what are you feeding into? There's a bunch of different stuff you can feed into. Let's look at optimism, neutrality, and pessimism, just as a wide scope of things, because I got to keep this to the point. Some people are, I'll start at the lower end. Some people are pessimists. They believe the most average thing is going to happen. They believe maybe, pessimists is even worse than that. I guess they believe and get ready and prepare for the worst. In this way, you may protect yourself actually from bad things if you're anticipating them, but then you're definitely gonna have to deal with them because you're also manifesting them, because you're preparing yourself for it. That's what you're focusing on. In Wings, my song Wings, I say my power is all in my focus. Again, that's to me like that's spirit speaking, because I'm like, wow, that sounds powerful. My power is all in my focus. Well, of course it is. It's kind of common sense. It sounds, some of the things that are true, it sounds profound. And then when I think about it, I'm like, well, it's kind of common sense. But whoa, that's amazing. I said it and I knew that. But of course, what you focus on is what's going to happen. So if you're always focusing on going to school to be a doctor, you're going to go to school and be a doctor. If you're going to focus on being a photographer, then you grow up to be a photographer and videographer like me years later. After high school, Function Presents. Well, that's what I always focused on. It was YouTube and videos and music, and now I'm doing YouTube and videos and music still to this day. So when these things transpire, we have to start looking at it for real and being like, this is what's going on. This is what's actually happening, and this is what's going on. And it's not, I don't know, it could be whatever you need it to be, I guess. So anyway, pessimism. You're preparing for the worst. You are thinking that only the average can happen or less than that. It's not a bright and sunny outlook. It's also a low vibration, unfortunately. Neutrality, somewhere in the middle. Again, really expecting average things to happen. You don't feel this way, you don't feel that way. You're kind of wandering through. Maybe you feel satisfied with nothing, or just whatever you get, even like a whatever satisfaction. And these can also be related to moods. These can be shifting moods for anybody too. It's not like lifestyles. And then we have optimism. That's my favorite one. Optimism is you believe the optimal is going to happen. Like, you're like Optimus Prime. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to come and save it. It's going to be me that comes through. And and that gets through, like, I'm going to figure it out, and we're going to see another sunrise. We're going to get through this somehow. Like, this is the highest opportunity that can happen. Optimism. So that's also high frequency. That's also high vibration. That's also like the greater things happening. That's the most high. The omega optimist, okay? So, let's see. I think that those three attitudes, those three moods, those three things are going on. And three, so we have another divinity number. We have three going on constantly in the things that matter. It seems like that's always pointed out as three. I don't know why. Anywho, people walk around with these attitudes and these demeanors and these lifestyle choices, and they do exist outside the three that I just mentioned here. I'm just trying to explain it in the best way I can. But these attitudes and the populace of those attitudes and lifestyles and demeanors walking around create what's going on. And then you choose into what kind of person are you? Nobody necessarily wants to be a pessimist. We kind of, or a neutral, super neutral person, I guess. But I guess we at times slip into these different moods, or feel like we can carry these different moods better or worse from time to time. They do change. It will always change. You're never going to statically be one of them. If you are, I would pick optimism. Then you'll always win. You'll always be set up to win if you choose optimism. So, but it's not always easy to choose optimism. It's not always even an option to choose optimism. So pay attention to where you're at, checking with yourself, checking with the situations around you too, because you could be in an atmosphere that becomes one of those as well. And that's kind of what I've been experiencing the last bit of time in some situations I've been going through. And I had to take a step back and, kind of think about, kind of remember who I am personally. And I'm like, I'm an optimist. I'm a dreamer. I have dreams never die tatted on my neck or tatted on my collarbone for a reason, because that's the type of person I am. And that's the type of person I want to be. So I realized I was in an atmosphere that was being cultivated and designed to be less than optimistic, to actually be like within pessimism and neutrality, very House of Laodicea vibes. And that's scripture from the Bible that basically says in the end times or whatever, that is going to be the culture and the people are going to be lukewarm, neither hot nor cold. It's disgustingly lukewarm. And it just means they don't feel a way. Like nobody, they're like, this person got hurt. Oh, okay, whatever. Oh, this person's baby died. Okay, we're not going to have no rights anymore. All right. That person said God don't exist and he don't like nothing. Okay. Lukewarm. And I felt like I was in a space of that, whether it was perceived. I'm not saying the people around me or the situations was reflecting that people don't believe in God or spirituality, just that mood-wise. And also the cultivation from people in charge, specifically, creating on purpose an atmosphere where there's like a loose regard for rules or rights that are supposed to drive things forward, keep things safe, keep things fair. And that had been almost programmed into like a conditioning into my attitude, and it really threw me off. I was really up from being gaslit a lot in situations and looking at pieces of paper and reading one thing and trying to understand and be like, okay, let me go back and try to understand this again, because I'm more of a creative, admittedly. I like to, do the creative stuff, design and photography and video and music, and that's all well and good. Actually, it's the best, but it's all well and good, but obviously there's a corporate thing and jobs that you have to do, and I was trying to do that, and I was playing by the rules, but I was realizing even the one in those situations, I realized I was in a trap, and they were setting one, or they were in it too. Maybe they didn't know that they were even projecting these situations of just nothing, nada, unto itself. Whether it's like they made rules, but they don't follow them, but they want you to follow them. And then they want you to feel like that's all you can get, even though they promised more. Or even though you're supposed to be protected in one atmosphere, or you're in one aspect, you bring it to them. And they say, no, you can't be protected here. It says you can, but we're not going to do that. So you got to make sure you don't live in realities that don't exist. And this is why I had to do this episode today. I was being like patronized by either thought forums, because we call them thought forums. Thought forums are these really kind of creepy things that your mind can create. It's basically just like thoughts that you have that they grow arms and legs in a way, and they start existing very deeply because you think about it, or you obsess about it, or you feel like you're trapped there. And your mind is super powerful. My mind as a director and creative, like my mind is super powerful. Imagination particularly is super powerful because it's already set up to make those things, scenarios and scenes and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, my mind is already set up to do that creatively. And I realized that from time to time I've had an issue with thought forms really trying to take place. And it may even be more than that. It may be some of the spiritual warfare, the battle of light and dark, trying to ride coattails of, to jump in and make the reality they want to become real. So this is what I realized. Let's see, ideas. Excuse me, I'm trying to figure out how I can display this. So there are things or energies or angels, demons, I don't know what you want to call them. The light and dark, they don't need too much definition, just that there's light and dark. I keep it simple, because you try to explain it too much, then it's overdone. I think there is energy that doesn't exist, concepts in your mind, misconceptions in your mind, fear, doubt, worry, that if you're focused on it too much, it can create its own, that thought form is created, and then it tries to become real. Like it literally tries to make you use your mind to make it come true, even though it's not. Or it'll try to appear real in your mind as an illusion until it, like if your manifestation and willpower is strong enough, things will like hop out of your mind if they can. And it's the same thing as having a good idea, like you want to start a business. Having that idea about a business where you will, and then you made one and it comes true. But the same thing with the thought form, especially if it's been given all of this power and all this building and all this like value that it shouldn't have. It can try to jump out of your head, basically. And I had that going on, and I realized not only was it trying to go on in my own head or whatever, try to like take advantage of like my power as an existing being, because we have birthright, and I think in existence, free will. It's a God-given gift, right? We get to be here, and you get to do what you want. Hopefully, it's a good thing. There's other stuff out there we don't know about, you can't see, but it's there. Spiritual warfare that wants to be here. It wants to be real. And I think you gotta just be, again, it's not to get, my best advice is be fearless. I have this hanging up in my living room for a reason, because if you get scared of it, that's like feeding it power and stuff, and that's how things become real, because it takes you over, it becomes real enough. And I recently had a cousin that passed away, and he was dealing with addiction and like abuse and stuff, drug abuse and things, like many people do. But not even unlike, I can't even say that. He got to a point where these scenarios were playing out, and I think a scenario he perceived something that was so scary to him that he wanted to sedate himself heavily, and he unfortunately overdosed. But these thought forms, he was being attacked by thought forms. He was being attacked by spiritual warfare, because it does try to come and get you. Those things make your mind weak. Some people don't know how to really clock that, put it on sight, pray about it. Those things meditated out, detox it out. Just stop altogether. Don't text those people. Whatever the case is, there's many different ways. But some people don't get away, or they don't clock it in time to kind of understand what it all is. I want to get into the next section, because in the RP to my cousin Brad, yes, love you, cuz. Anyway, I want to continue, because I want to tell this so that others, and I don't mean any way to like brush past it or anything, but I want to keep moving. I don't want to get like too sad or anything right now. And I want to say these things because this is what I can do to help others in a situation like him, that is not just an earthbound situation, which is not just the drugs, which is not just, oh, he lost his damn mind and this and that. Like, yeah, it was like losing your mind is not just losing your mind. Losing your mind is also a spiritual battle too, because you losing your mind, you're giving it up to who or what? Ooh, yeah, because when you vacate yourself, something else will hop in if it has a chance to, or something else will try to hop out if it has a chance to. That's another situation that, here's another story or situation about spiritual warfare and vacating things, people vacating the body and something else occupying it. Some people call it possession. Hey, some people call it possession. I gotta say this because, and then this is like a really creepy episode. I'm sorry, but if you didn't know, what you don't know can hurt you. I was dating this guy, one of my first, I guess, boyfriends, or second, maybe? Second. I'm not going to mention his name, but he had a drinking problem. And I didn't realize, like at first when we met, everything was cool. I did notice he kind of had a hot streak, I guess you would call it. We were crossing the street one time, and this car like whizzed past us, and he threw a fucking Taco Bell drink, a big ass cup at that car, and it just hit the car. And I was like, that's funny, because that guy did almost hit us, and at least he kind of stuck up for us, you know. And that's not very high vibrational or meditative. I mean, this is years ago, so I'm a little bit better now. But it was funny, you know. That seemed funny. But that temper and that funny little moment escalated over the course of the relationship. One of our first big fights after I had moved in, I was staying with him at a cousin's house of theirs. We got into an argument. I think I was out with friends and I came home a little bit later than expected or something like that. But I was in contact the whole time, text, whatever. I get home. He is waiting for me at the door and like slaps me. And we have after our little conversation at the door. And I'm like, what? Why did you just hit me? I was shocked. Something, I don't know, I can't remember how I handled it that first time. I know it happened again in a similar way, and then I had like end up hitting him back, you know, and then it just was bad. It's just like, it was always with alcohol involved with him, and this is a hard story to tell and like breeze through, and I know there's going to be a lot of different like whatever conceptions of this. I don't care. People can make your conceptions. I'm telling you this because let me get to the last part of it. So, alcohol, domestic violence, um, relationships, all bad. Went all together. Yeah. My birthday, 2020, or excuse me, my birthday, 2015. This boyfriend, this partner, decides to throw a party for me, a surprise party, and it starts off, really beautifully. All my closest friends at the time they come through. I'm DJing, having a ball. There's so much Hennessy. I've never had so many people bring a bottle of Hennessy that year or whatever. Anyway, my problematic boyfriend ends up talking to another problematic straight dude. This straight dude always just like trying to low-key hit on us and stuff, but he was really annoying with it. And I'm like, what's up with you, dude? Are you curious, or you're just like trying to bully us by flirting with us, which straight guys do all the time, and try to say little slick shit or whatever, or tease or do it. Sometimes it's cute, sometimes it's kind of condescending, because they just assume like, oh, we're gay, we'll accept anything we can get. No, not necessarily. Actually, not at all. You're not even making the cut. So anyway, that guy and him was talking, and some slick shit was said. The dude hits my ex at the time, or my ex over the head with a Hennessy bottle, one of the widely available Hennessy bottles at the party, and I just like black out, and I just know I'm like running towards the guy to square up with him. I blacked out, and we interacted in some way. He ran out the house. I wanted to continue the, fighting and all that. What I Need podcast, brought to you by Karlton. This is years ago, but anyway, back to the story. The perpetrator, he runs out of the house. I'm still mad. I'm full of Hennessy. It's my birthday. I was supposed to be having a great time. My boyfriend at the time hit over the head with a bottle and fell to the ground. I'm like, take me to this guy's house. I'm not done. This and that. I'm screaming. I'm like pissed. All my friends are like, no, just let it go. We don't know if he has a knife on him, or like, we don't know what the level of danger it is you could get into by just going to fight this guy. And he lives with his grandma. I was like, all right, that's fine. Pull up to his grandma's house and drop me off. My ex wakes back up. They like took him in the bathroom and like got water on his face, and I guess he woke back up. I was out raging the whole time, just pacing back and forth. But he comes, he grabs me, and he brings me into our room, and was restraining me, like put like a bear hug, but kind of from the back, and restraining me because I was in a rage, like I was really had a lot to drink. So did he. Oh, this is the other thing too. He had an interest to put Everclear in a Jungle Juice somewhere in the party. This was like a party house, basically, like a real world MTV. Everybody's a 20-something, lit. We love to have parties, play cards, music, all that. So it was fun when it was fun, but it was also intense. And anyway, back to the room. I'm being restrained in our room, squirming around, and I'm like, I still want to fight. Are you okay? I'm mad. It's my birthday. It wasn't supposed to be like this. And he's just squeezing me, and I'm like, hey, can you let go? Cause I can't breathe. I feel like I'm being suffocated. Are you trying to like knock me out or whatever they call that? Put you in a sleeper? He wasn't responding. I was like, okay, dude. Please, like, let me go. I don't want to suffocate or be like put to sleep, because that's weird. I've never been like sleepered before. And I count down to 10, because I'm like, I'm gonna give you a countdown to 10. I'm really not a person that likes to be bullied. I will not take bullying for anything. So this whole relationship was like my darkest relationship ever. And I share it here with y'all because maybe you're going to be you are, or you're a 20-something, or you're going through it, and these things get really gruesome. So if you see any signs of domestic anything, even if it starts off as a slap that wasn't that hard and you thought you could deal with it or change that person, you can't. It'll get all the way to this part. Let me get back to it. So I told him, 10 seconds, I'm going to start to squirm, and I'm going to free myself from this hold because I don't like this shit. I'm already calm. I don't want to go to this guy's house, or I don't want to go and finish the fight off with this idiot anymore. But he wasn't responding. I counted down to 10. I squirmed, and I'm like trying to get him off of me. But it was weird. Like, okay. He was not responsive anymore. His eyes were super dilated, like almost not all black, but very dilated. He had like brown eyes. But you couldn't see the brown really. You could just see the like white, like black part. He checked out. And I remember I was like pushing on his chest, and he was still like pulling on both of my arms as hard as he could. He's a pretty strong guy. And then punched me as I was trying to get up off of him, like hard. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? And then he goes to bite me. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't do that. I was screaming. I was trying to get, just trying to detach myself from it. It was like almost being like attached to an octopus. Like they're grabbing you in each way and pulling you in and trying to hold you so you can't let go. And his grip was like, it was like drunk strength. So the grip was like very, very, like nails, like almost like his nails were digging into my skin. We fought, and I was trying to get away from him though the whole time, because like I was never trying to fight. Like I never trying to fight or be aggressive like that, but I will defend myself. I'm martial arts trained. I'm Muay Thai kickboxing trained, so I've always been trained to not aggress but defend. Like you don't have to allow yourself to be beat up. My mom always told me don't let anybody beat your ass. So yeah, I don't. And during those times when he would try that stuff, I would often end up stooping to that level too, which I'm not proud of, and it was dangerous to do. But again, I don't see a way for me to not defend myself when somebody is doing that. So anyway, I don't know, this fight carried on around the house. Different friends tried to interject and stop it. My best friend tried to stop it. He like went to bite him. One of my homegirls at the time, he pulled her hair. It was like a possession. And they call alcohol spirits. Like he had a lot of like anger energy in him. He had a lot of sadness energy in him that I noticed, but I kind of didn't, I guess at that time I didn't take it seriously, and it manifested all the way up to this brawl on my birthday that basically changed my life. You know, I witnessed something come through him, or his darkness be able to be magnified and take over. The anger, the sadness, the whatever, come out to the fullest extent and just fight me with no person there, just that. So this is why I'm talking about this episode, talking about spiritual warfare on this episode, and what I've witnessed of it and how real it is and how it will approach you in different ways. That was one of the ways it approached me. And I also could not, beat him up like to that point, because this is my at the time a loved one, a lover, somebody I've lain down with. So I'm like, I don't understand why we're fighting and what is going on. But there was really nothing to understand. It was a vacated moment, and the eyes, something I'll never forget. The blank eyes and the blank stare. So anyway, I gotta wrap this part of the section up. But anyway, What are you feeding into? So I would say, what are we feeding into? Are we feeding into alcoholism? Are we feeding into the things that allow your higher spirit, higher self to vacate and allow the lower, darker, like the problems of yourself, take the wheel, take control? Is God taking the wheel, or is the lowest vibration taking the wheel? Because if you allow these things that kind of take you away from your mind, take you away from yourself, and you don't, and you're really like, oh, it's just alcohol, oh, it's just this, I'm gonna have a good time, even though I'm really angry underneath this, or I'm really sad underneath that, or I haven't dealt with X, Y, and Z. Like, those things will take the opportunity to take over, and I've seen it firsthand. So and it's not something I'm proud of. It's not something I tell to just everybody, but I guess I have shared it here in very great detail. And young people, especially LGBT community members, please, if you're noticing your partner willing to engage in physical violence with you, just walk away. Because before you move in, because it'll be harder once you move in to get away. And it was really hard to get away from that situation. It lasted way longer than it should have. It escalated all the way to that point. We both could have got charges from that incident. It could have ended worse from that incident that night even, but somehow it was able to end like with us going to sleep and waking up and just being in shambles the next day. And that this person swear they didn't remember any of the 30-minute in the interaction that happened. They didn't remember or recall it. I was like, are you kidding me? But I guess that's also how it works. It was a takeover, so he didn't remember. It wasn't that person. Scary. So what are you feeding into? Don't feed into the ills. Make sure you're feeding yourself electrolyte water, high vibrational foods, exercise, meditation, positive affirmations. You got to feed into what's going to take you up and not what's going to take you down. You don't have to be perfect at it, because you're not going to be able to, but at least having some kind of balance. Because if you're only like confiding in Captain Morgan every day, then you're going to definitely be overboard, and then that's not where you want to be. Okay, so where else we have? I'm going to wrap up feed. This is a longer episode. I might even do it in a 3-part episode, because spiritual warfare really deserves this much attention, and the experiences really deserve this much attention in detail. I wish I had guests too, because I know others that have had experiences with this, and people don't identify it as this because it's like, I guess we're not supposed to talk about it. I don't know. The internet has made it so. The beginning, anyway, of the internet era has made it so we focus on materialism, focus on what other people are doing, focus on people's trips, people's dinner, people's mundane things about their life. That's just the highlighted, good things, that's good to have good things and see and witness good things. But I do think we turn away from real things like this that also are going on, whether you're paying attention to it or not. Then you end up in situations where it's like you're confronted with this overwhelming situation that takes you down, or whatever, takes you out of control because you didn't see it coming. You forgot it existed. It's still there. So I just wanted to tell that and share that. Let's see. So feeding into, algorithm, feed, and social media. So even on social media, what are you feeding into? Are you only feeding your mind and your internet experience with super material, superficial, envy producing, jealousy producing content? Is it a bunch of stuff you want but don't have? Are you looking at it in a way of, damn, I wish I had that? Or is it at least being put into a light of, I want to get this one day, so that's why I'm following all these cars or whatever. That's why I'm following all these trip shows. I think it's very important to intentionalize the things that you put in front of your face. Here, I guess I could give a definition, or not a definition, but a quick explanation. Example, words and things. One of those words was right. So we've restarted the tape. It was necessary. I'm going to give an example. That's the word we were looking for. Of a time I was allowing algorithmic suggestion from a friend. He wanted me to follow this page called the Venom page on Instagram. And this is a terrible page, y'all. There's literally like it's literally like a car accidents and bad accidents like page. But a friend of mine, a previous friend, we're not friends anymore, showed this page to me. And at first, it was kind of like a social pressure thing, I guess, because he was like, follow it. It's crazy. Like, people get in these accidents and you see the whole thing, even if they, die. And I'm like, whoa, that's intense. And it wasn't really something I was comfortable with, but it was, it was like these accidents. It was like it was like a workplace incidents. Sometimes it wasn't all the way that bad. Sometimes it was just like a mishap. Sometimes it was something silly, but sometimes it was all the way like crazy. And I'm gonna have to put a parental advisory on this or whatever on this episode, but that's fine, because it's more important to know what these things do to you, or what they try to do, rather than, and not even what they try to do, but what it can do, what it's actually kind of like a doorway, window, whatever, to portal to. I was following that page, and this friend would make sure I'm like, oh, did you see what happened this morning? Or did you see, like, I don't know, did you see this and this and that? I don't know. Gruesome shit. It was basically a gruesome page that I was asked to follow by a friend. And I don't think this friend knew what he was doing by suggesting or even feeding into a page such as a Venom page on Instagram. That's not exactly what it's called, but whatever. These mishaps, they have a terminology for this. Desensitization is kind of what it is. These mishaps, and there being pages that even exist like this, is desensitization. They want you to be used to, and not even they. This is like literally, again, spiritual warfare. Some of these things manifest autonomously, where it's not necessarily this entity or like a creature, so to speak, that's doing it or managing it. Even the person that probably manages that page, he may have a wife and kids or something, but something is kind of working through him to even have the audacity to think gathering this material together, posting it to the internet, and thinking it was a good idea is a good idea. You know what I'm saying? It's working, and these things are working in the atmosphere of our lives, autonomously, and with arms and legs sometimes, and with cognition. And you got to realize it. You have to realize that you may involve in it for a time being, then you transcend. Like, what the fuck? Why do I follow this? Why did I even take this person's recommendation to follow it? It's okay to have experienced it. Because you may not notice some of the little things. Like, you may literally follow like an accidents page on Instagram. You might not have something that's all the way bad like that. But even, it's like, why are you following the accidents page? So you can see people get into misfortunate situations. You may be manifesting or absorbing data that puts you to manifest that even for yourself. So remove yourself from that. If you're a good driver and your license is clean, just go with that. Because you don't need to see people's like accident, car pile-ups, worst situation they could have been in, you know, just floating around through your day. And even that friend, like the fact that he would be kind of excited. Oh, did you see what happened today? And it was literally like something gruesome. I sometimes wonder, do people know what that is? That is, like, what part of you is enjoying what you're watching? Or do you even really, do those people take a moment to question, like, do I really enjoy this, or is it something I need to like wash myself of and not involved in? I don't know. So you got to be careful what you're feeding yourself. You're scrolling down the feed. There's 1,000 different pictures. There's people, there's buff people with these nice bodies and stuff. And you start feeling like, oh, I wish I looked like them. Or, there's people with partners. Oh, I wish I had a partner like that, or anybody at all. Are you, not that that's bad. Like, that's not bad. But there's just different things. There's different things that we expose ourselves to in a wide range of things on the internet. We could be exposing ourselves to subconsciously. It's really giving something else. Esoterically, it's really giving something else. Earthly bound, it's like not necessary. You're just adding stress and cortisol to your brain's like output from just looking at that shit. Take it away, like, if you can, because you don't need to have it. And even if there's a peer pressure, even if there's a peer pressure to watch this incident video or follow this incident page or look at this, it could even be pornography, like this type of pornography that's like, you don't really want to watch that shit anymore. It's kind of like, you're like, it doesn't really, maybe that's not your vibe or whatever, but your homies are telling you, yeah, check this shit out. I don't know. It depends on what age you are or whatever, but it comes through at different times in different ways. So watch what algorithms you're feeding into. Don't be fooled. You literally have the choice to prescribe and subscribe and cancel whatever you absorb on the internet. And it's much more helpful to absorb knowledgeable, uplifting affirmations, better things than low-key absorbing dark energy into your very soul. I'm going to take a short break as I go ahead and get ready for the part two, spiritual warfare, because I have a couple more things to go over. I promise it won't be as heavy and dark, or at least I'll try to explain it in a more brighter way, because there is actually a bright side, and it's really having to do with what you choose and creating your reality and futures. You can do that. We'll be back after this. The episode today. Yes, this was the first episode I had actually filmed on spiritual warfare, talking about thought forms, how things can manifest through domestic violence. So we see these things appearing not only esoterically, but in the day-to-day life. And we bring this episode to you. So hopefully you are able to discern those things, not just as things that happen on the day-to-day, things that are circumstance, but things that you can choose the path of light in your own life, because they're, going down a dark road. I mean, we do it, but often it's so much trouble and strife to encounter. So we just bring that to you so that, again, you can begin to hopefully see the signs in your own path and get ahead of them in ways so that you have a brighter day. Thank you for listening to the What I Need podcast. You can check us out at bio.site/function presents for all of our wonderful services that we have to offer.